The Verge just put together a fantastic interview with Phil Spencer where he talked about why Keystone was canceled due to price, their view of how the gaming market currently is and where they hope it goes in the future. Yes, they talked about Call of Duty exclusivity, but there is a ton more to dive into in this article. So I went through and I picked out the 9, maybe 10 biggest pieces of info that we should be taking away from the Verge article. I'll link to it in the comments below if you want to go check it out for yourself. But here we go. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell to know when my content goes live. I greatly appreciate it. Still shooting for that 100,000 mark someday. Anyway, diving right in, I'm going to change yellow here for a second because their header image is this big yellow picture of Phil Spencer. And I want to dive into some of the key points, starting with their thoughts behind the Starfield delay. So if we scroll down here past like the introductory stuff, they talk about the Starfield delay and how they end up coming to that decision with the studio. So Phil Spencer here is going to talk about his relationship with Todd and how it works when they decide to delay a game that big. He says, I'll focus on Starfield with Todd. He and I have an honest discussion going on, starting from the day the deal closed on the purchase of ZeniMax. Where are we with the game? What are the risks that we see? We have some internal teams at Xbox, like our Advanced Technology Group, ATG, which we can deploy to help teams look at where they are with tech challenges and production challenges. But basically, the long and the short of it is they have a hands-off approach. They want that team to make a decision about when their game will launch. They're not coming in and saying, you have to delay your game. They're not strong-arming it like that. And that is the point that he makes in this initial paragraph. And it's kind of refreshing to hear that they just make sure that the teams are empowered to make those decisions and they schedule accordingly. They also talked a little bit more about the structure because they go on to discuss Redfall. As someone who has seen a few country fairs here, I might get some gut instinct about where we are just by the way the teams are talking about their game and where we are in playing builds. One of the things I have learned is that you want teams to feel like they own their dates. They deliver better when they feel like they own their own destiny with their games. He plays a lot of Destiny. I wonder if that's a slip. I lost my spot. One of the things I have learned is that you want the team to feel like they own their dates. They deliver better when they feel like they own their own destiny with their games. So you wait for the real signal from the creative and production teams. It's an ongoing discussion about where we are. It's not like one day, all of a sudden, somebody comes in and says, okay, our data is going to have to move. We track and understand the weighted risks on everything that is going on. It's a fundamental part of the job that head of Microsoft Studios, Matt Booty, and CEO of ZeniMax Media, Jamie Letter, do in running our first-party studio organizations. So, I mean, that's some interesting context to have about their strategy for, release dates and such, but I am curious why they would make the decision to put their flag in the ground with a concrete date and then move it. I think the answer is because they saw God of War Ragnarok and they're like, let's just let God of War have its window and we'll move further out into like January through March. But they're also missing sort of that Christmas window by delaying the Starfield. At the end of the day, I am surprised that they didn't hit their targets because they had just announced that date not that long ago, and then they moved it as we got closer to Starfield's launch. I think it was the right move. If you haven't seen it yet, go check out my analysis. I don't know where the things pop up. I think they pop up over there of the Starfield performance. I kind of went into detail counting frames and starts. It was very stuttery at that point, so I'm glad that they went back to the drawing board. We also talk a bit about how like people like to own their games versus streaming or subscribing to a service. And they had some comments about that. So let's go to that next. One day, 5 years for now, are we just going to wake up and it's all going to be streaming in our subscriptions? Is this a permanent state of affairs? Phil responded, no. Games are fundamentally different and we play, so we know this. Games have a business model unto themselves, songs don't. If you want access to the song, the decision is, do I pay for the whole album? Do I pay for the track or do I subscribe? If you think of almost any game in the market today, it has a business model unto itself. that should be sustainable and profitable for the creator of the content. That's not true of movies. That's not true of music. That's not true of books. I think games are just fundamentally different that way. The place that a movie theater makes their money is basically in concessions. They don't make money on the movie ticket. That's basically just paying a very small amount comparative to what they pay for the reel, right? They make all of their money on concessions in the same way that a lot of free-to-play games or games that hit Game Pass make a lot of their money through the deals with Microsoft and then the conversion. So like you get a 20% discount, for example, if you have Game Pass. I believe that's the amount. Correct me if I'm wrong. So you get a lot more conversions for sales. And then if you're a free to play like Overwatch or I believe Valorant's about to come to the service, you make your money by having paid cosmetics and such in your product. And by having that expanded audience, you're able to make more money. So it's just sort of a different field for gaming right now. Yes, there are single player experiences, but even there, sometimes you'll get a cosmetic or something, and that's how they monetize. Not my favorite thing in the world, but that's just what he said, so I'm reading it to you. They also asked about the stock of Xbox Series X this holiday season, and here's what they said. X will be difficult to find, especially through the holiday, but I feel good about S. I think it's a positive that it's available in the market for families who want to come in and maybe add a video game console to their household. And that's why the Series S is selling so well. I have been able to go into Costco where I check every time I go in. I'm like, do they still have the Series S? Yes, they do. And I think that's great. It means like a lot of people, I think us gamers, like the hardcore, are so wrapped up in this idea of having 4K everything, 4K televisions, and we lose sight of the idea that there's a lot of people out there who just have 1080p televisions, who aren't as concerned about having the best and the brightest, and they just want a console that games. Sort of a silly aside, I had a light put in this room by an electrician because I'm terrified about getting electrocuted. No joke, my grandfather got electrocuted and was dead for like 5 minutes before he snapped out of it. So I don't mess around with electricity. He was an electrician. I don't do it. But long and short of it is they came in and they asked me, they're like, well, should I get a PlayStation 5 or should I get an Xbox Series X? And as I was talking about the pricing structure of all the consoles, I'm like, well, if you really want a PlayStation 5, you know, the console, I believe it's $500 or $599. And then you got to buy, you know, $70 games. But I told them about the PlayStation Plus options. And then when you start talking about the options in terms of the Xbox, yeah, you can get the Xbox Series X and the console's priced comparably, but he doesn't have a 4K television. He doesn't really care about all that stuff. He just wants to play the newer games. I'm like, well, then get the Series S. You could also get the all access plan where you pay like $30 a month, and then you can get your PlayStation 5. And I think that's how a lot of consumers think, right? And Phil actually talks about this in the next section. I didn't do that purposefully, but it's about how people are thinking about their money right now. He said, well, you said certain spots. Is it worse in Europe? Talking about the economic situation the world is in. Europe seems to be where it's hitting the hardest right now economically. I think what we're seeing as we're doing some research is that people are valuing. This sounds like an ad, but you asked the question, so I'll just go there. That's why we're here. The interviewer responded, you're not here for an ad. The fact that we do have an S console that is less expensive than our X console is helpful to families. The fact that we do have a subscription means I don't have to pay $70 for every one of my video games, and I can build my library in a different way. Again, I apologize for it sounding like an Xbox ad, but it is what we have. We are definitely hearing from customers that those things are valuable ways to manage their flow. And if you're able to spend a set amount, I believe the Series X, you can pay $50 a month and you get Xbox Live Ultimate with it, which includes, Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, which includes, of course, all the games on Game Pass. And I think PlayStation actually has a similar service where you're able to do that. You do get hit with a credit check, but it's great. You end up paying cost for the console, and I think you actually save $50 by the time it's all said and done. So yes, it's on a payment plan, but you pay the same amount of money just over a longer period of time. So that is what a lot of people are doing right now. They're counting their pennies. They're making sure that they're spending in a way that makes sense for them. So I was telling this person, I'm like, here are sort of your options. And for him, I actually said, well, maybe you get the Series X, or you get the all access plan for the Xbox, so you're paying a low monthly fee. And then if you really want the PlayStation, then you can have both using that methodology, and you pay a lower amount over a longer period of time. I never followed up with them. Like, they just put in the light. They're like, all right, dude, you've been talking to us about video games for like 20 minutes. They asked the right question, right? So I nerded out, but he seemed appreciative. So I would be curious to know what he ended up doing, if anything. Moving on. They talk a little bit about how they see the market. In terms of the Activision opportunity, I keep saying this over and over, and it's true. It definitely starts with a view that people want to play games on every device that they have. In a funny way, the smallest screen, talking about mobile, that we play on is actually the biggest screen when you think about the install base in a phone. That's just a place where if we don't gain relevancy as a gaming brand over time, the business will become untenable. Sony is going all in on mobile. They're figuring out their PC strategy. They're playing a little bit of catch up there. They're doing a staggered release, but both of these companies are being very smart about how they handle this strategy. We're not alone in seeing this. This is true for any of us. If you're not able to find customers on phones or on any screen that somebody wants to play on, then you really are going to get segmented to a niche part of gaming where running a global business will become very challenging. And yeah, so mobile actually is very important. I understand what he's saying. I don't think he's blowing smoke. We all know Call of Duty is the big game, and I think I already did the video where he's like, we want Call of Duty on PlayStation. We would lose too much money if we were to take it off PlayStation, so we want it to remain there in perpetuity. But he also called out the thing that I called out and Hope called out, like, you can't make a contract that just says forever. It just doesn't make sense. This has been true he's talking about mobile still. This has been true if anybody looks at the numbers for 5 or 6 years. All the growth in gaming has actually come on mobile phones. As a percent of the overall gaming business, console business is shrinking because the overall business is growing while console stays relatively flat as PC. So the console market has remained where it's going to be while mobile is exploding right now. So these bigger gaming companies have to figure out what their strategy is going to be for mobile. And when they did the Bethesda purchase, they also got, I believe the company is Red Dog, who handles mobile properties also. So they have been building this infrastructure for a while. It's, excuse me, it's critical that if you're trying to run an at-scale global gaming business, you meet your customers where they want to play, and mobile is more and more that place. We scoff at, so many gamers I see scoff at mobile for so long now, and it's nearsighted because phones are going to catch up to computers and to portable devices sooner rather than later. And if you don't have a market there, then you're shooting yourself in the foot. You're leaving money on the table, for lack of a better term, and you're abandoning a huge set of customers who could potentially be purchasing your products. You're buying the Candy Crush company. People think about it as Call of Duty or whatever, but you're buying Candy Crush. And Phil makes a great point here. Absolutely. In addition, the number that's not in the Candy Crush King number is Call of Duty Mobile and Diablo Mobile, which are big franchises that exist in that Activision and Blizzard bucket that are also major players on phones. Yes, the idea that Activision is all about Call of Duty on console is a construct that might get created by our console competitor and maybe some players out there. So everybody focuses on console. And as I said from the beginning, I think I said it in the first video, I'm like, don't sleep on King. There is so much money in Candy Crush, Call of Duty Mobile. I don't think I mentioned Diablo Immortal, but King makes so much money. Yes, Call of Duty is one of the most successful franchises ever. Nobody's really talking about the mobile strategy though. So I think Xbox is going to be like, yeah, like, sure, you can keep making money for us, PlayStation. We don't care. That's fine. Keep Call of Duty on PlayStation, just like with Minecraft. Minecraft is one of their most successful properties. So it's pretty crazy. And actually, seeing we're at the 15-minute mark, I'm actually going to do a separate video. We're going to talk about Keystone in the next one. I will put it on the end screen so that you guys don't miss it when it posts tomorrow. But you know how else you cannot miss it? By hitting that subscribe button right now. I don't think it's a red button anymore, but you can hit that subscribe button, hit that bell to know when my content goes live. This ended up being way longer. We're only halfway through the article. There's a lot of great stuff here that I want to go over. So thank you so much for watching, and thank you to the members for supporting this channel. Now, Sony has been complaining about the Activision thing, so I'm going to link to that at the end of the video. But thank you to the members. If you want to become a member, hit that join button. There is the video I was just talking about. Check it out. It's directly related to what we're discussing today and the Activision merger and how Sony feels about it. But I'm going to get out of here, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye for now, everybody.